In the intricate dance of human interaction, manipulation lurks in the shadows, often disguised as innocent gestures or well-intentioned actions. While some forms of influence can be positive, there exists a darker side to manipulation, one that seeks to exploit, control, and deceive for personal gain. Understanding these tactics is crucial for safeguarding oneself against their insidious effects. Here are 7 dark manipulation tactics you need to know. Gaslighting. This psychological manipulation tactic involves distorting or denying reality to make the victim doubt their own perceptions, memory, and sanity. Gaslighters often employ subtle techniques, such as trivializing the victim's feelings or experiences, to undermine their confidence and assert dominance. Over time, gaslighting can erode self-esteem and foster dependence on the manipulator. Isolation. Manipulators may isolate their targets from friends, family, and support networks to gain control over them. By severing external sources of validation and guidance, the manipulator becomes the primary influence in the victim's life, making it easier to manipulate and exploit them without interference. Isolation can exacerbate feelings of loneliness, helplessness, and vulnerability, amplifying the manipulator's power. Love bombing. Love bombing involves showering the target with excessive affection, attention, and praise to create a sense of dependency and loyalty. Manipulators use this tactic to quickly establish a deep emotional bond with their victims, making them more susceptible to manipulation and less likely to question the manipulator's intentions. Once the victim is hooked, the manipulator may withdraw affection or escalate control to maintain dominance. Guilt tripping. Manipulators often use guilt as a tool to manipulate others into compliance or submission. By highlighting the victim's perceived shortcomings or mistakes, the manipulator induces feelings of shame, remorse, and obligation, making it difficult for the victim to assert boundaries or resist their demands. Guilt tripping exploits empathy and compassion, turning them into weapons of manipulation. Gaslighting. This psychological manipulation tactic involves distorting or denying reality to make the victim doubt their own perceptions, memory, and sanity. Gaslighters often employ subtle techniques such as trivializing the victim's feelings or experiences to undermine their confidence and assert dominance. Over time, gaslighting can erode self-esteem and foster dependence on the manipulator. Fear-mongering. Manipulators may use fear as a means of control by exaggerating threats or inventing dangers to manipulate the target's behavior. Whether through intimidation, coercion, or misinformation, fear-mongering instills a sense of urgency and vulnerability in the victim, making them more compliant and receptive to the manipulator's directives. By exploiting primal instincts, fear-mongering can override rational thinking and foster a state of perpetual anxiety. Triangulation involves pitting individuals against each other to manipulate emotions, sow discord, and maintain control. Manipulators may strategically involve a third party, such as a friend, colleague, or romantic rival, in conflicts or conversations to create tension, jealousy, or insecurity. By manipulating perceptions and alliances, triangulation allows the manipulator to manipulate situations and relationships to their advantage. Here are a few example stories that illustrate different dark manipulation tactics. Gaslighting. Sarah's partner, Jack, constantly belittles her achievements and dismisses her opinions as insignificant. Whenever Sarah confronts him about his behavior, Jack denies ever saying or doing anything hurtful, leaving Sarah questioning her own memory and perception of reality. Over time, Sarah begins to doubt herself and becomes increasingly dependent on Jack's validation. Isolation. After moving to a new city for a job opportunity, David's colleague, Mark, befriends him and convinces him to cut ties with his old friends and family, citing their supposed negative influence on David's life. As David becomes more isolated from his support network, Mark's influence over him grows, and David finds himself relying solely on Mark for companionship and guidance. Love bombing. Emily meets Alex, who immediately showers her with gifts, compliments, and declarations of love. Thrilled by the attention and affection, Emily quickly becomes enamored with Alex and starts to believe that he is her soulmate. However, once Emily is fully invested in the relationship, Alex's behavior changes, and he becomes controlling and manipulative. using Emily's feelings against her to get what he wants. Guilt-tripping James's colleague, Sarah, often asks him to cover her shifts at work, citing personal issues and emergencies. Feeling guilty for saying no, James agrees every time, even though it means sacrificing his own time and well-being. Sarah exploits James's compassion and sense of duty, manipulating him into doing her bidding without considering his own needs. Fear-mongering. Rachel's landlord warns her about the dangers of living alone in the city, citing recent break-ins and assaults in the neighborhood. Despite Rachel's skepticism, the landlord's stories instill a sense of fear and insecurity in her, prompting her to invest in expensive security measures and avoid going out after dark. Unbeknownst to Rachel, the landlord fabricates these stories to justify raising the rent and exerting control over her. Triangulation. Tom's girlfriend, Emma, often brings up her ex-boyfriend Jake in conversations, comparing Tom unfavorably to him and mentioning how much she misses Jake's company. Feeling insecure and jealous, Tom confronts Emma, who dismisses his concerns and accuses him of being paranoid and controlling. Unbeknownst to Tom, Emma deliberately brings up Jake to manipulate his emotions and keep him on edge, ensuring that he remains compliant and attentive to her needs. Awareness is the first step towards safeguarding oneself against dark manipulation tactics. By recognizing these insidious strategies and understanding their underlying mechanisms, individuals can better protect themselves from exploitation and maintain autonomy in their interactions. Building resilience, establishing boundaries, and cultivating healthy relationships based on mutual respect and trust are essential defenses against the shadows of manipulation that seek to ensnare the unwary.